Hey there, my friends, it's Dave Wood. I'm talking to you in front of my swimming pool in Escazú, Costa Rica, and today I've got two questions for you. And number one question I've got is, are you the superhero of your own life? Let me repeat that again. Are you the superhero of your own life? And what do I mean by that? Well, to ask you what I mean by that, I need to ask you another question, and that is, what's a hero really? Well, I look at a hero and I think of a hero, and a hero is somebody that saves people, right? And I find that there's generally two big segments of the population on this, and one of them wants to save people, and the other people, they want to be saved, right? One group wants to save people, the other group, they want to be saved. And I think that both are a little bit out of place. And the reason is because I look back over my life, and one of the things that I've had for a long time that's one of my a personal struggle inside my heart is I've had a lot of codependent tendencies where, you know, I've not drawn lines in my life in different areas of my life. And it's one of the things of my particular personality that's one of the weak points. Everybody's got strong points and weak points. And part of that is because I've always wanted to save people, right? I've got this thing in my head where it's almost like you can put on a cape and tights and you could go out and you could save people, right? When the reality is that I can't save people. I'm not a savior and I'm not a superhero. But those people they can save themselves. And so my question for you watching this video is, are you saving yourself, right? Are you your own superhero? And I'm going to talk about that today and talk about how to take responsibility over your life and change anything that you want to change, because when you're creating your own future and when you're outlining where you're going to go and when you're creating clarity for your future and clarity and vision, you are going to create your future exactly the way that you want. And when you do that, you don't need a hero. You don't need someone to come into your life with a cape and tights and take you out of a bad situation, because you're just going to walk out and you're going to leave. So my question for you today is, are you your own superhero? Are you your own superhero, right? Are you a hero, really, to yourself and your family, to your future, right? To your team, to the people around you? Are you your own hero, not their hero? Are you your own superhero, right? I actually don't want you to be their hero, because I don't want you to go out and save the lost. I want you to beckon to the lost and help them walk out themselves. It's a better way. And so let's talk about that, right? So there's a couple of things that I want to point out to you that are principles, right, to help you become your own hero. Number one thing that I find a lot is I find a lot of people, they have a lot of shame, they have a lot of self-doubt about themselves, about their abilities, because of failures that they've had in the past. Well, that same person has had a lot of successes in the past, and so they've been in the past and they've succeeded at things, and they're always pointing towards the things that they're not good at, the things where they're less at, the parts of their lives that don't work right. When the reality is that all these other parts of their life, they do work right, and they are strong in these other areas. So part of being your own hero and part of taking responsibility for your life is also just realizing where you're weak. And rather than trying to go out where you're weak and find somebody else to pull you out of a weird spot, what you're doing is you can learn to build systems around your weakness so you can focus on your strengths. Because when you're focused on your strengths and you're focused on your vision and you're focused on your outcome and what you're actually good at, you can actually create anything. I believe that any one of you can create anything. To create anything, in order to be able to manifest anything, you actually need good people around you to do that. It's not that you need them or you're not going to succeed without them, but you need that person, or if they're not going to be there, you need to go find somebody else to fill that role, right? Every accountant needs a good visionary. Every visionary needs a good accountant, right? Those two roles are completely different roles in life. And so the reality is that you are good at things. You are powerful in certain areas, and if you realize where you're powerful and you take responsibility there, you can also realize you're not powerful in other areas, because if you focus on where you're strong, your strengths are actually going to become your superpower. I remember a long time ago, this is years ago, like back in 2002, I heard John Maxwell speak at a convention with 15,000 people, and he got up on the stage and he said something that I'll always remember. And the reason I'll always remember it is because I started thinking about it in my own life. Because in my life, most of the people that I had known previous to that time had always said, David, you want to focus where you're weak. People would say it in the gym, people would say it in martial arts, people would say it in school. They'd always focus more on what you're not good at than what you're good at. So for me, I was always frustrated with things like organization. I was always frustrated with not being able to fit into what was normal for other people, because I was like a square peg in a round hole. But I was good at all these things that all these other people were not good at, and they were good at things that I wasn't good at. And the reality is that we're just different. So after that day, I started to make a change, and that change that I began to make was focusing on my strengths and what I am good at. The cat just jumped out. I thought it was like this giant rat. There's these things in Costa Rica. I call them rat dogs, but that's not a rat dog. It's actually a cat. And so in any case, right, that was distracting, wasn't it? But what I bet you're thinking is, did he do that on purpose or not? I bet you don't know. Go read a few NLP books and maybe you'll find out. Now here's the thing, right? Your strengths are going to become your power. And here's what he said. He said that if you take a skill on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being 0, like practically 0 scale or a 1, and a 10 being like you're the best in the world, he said it's really difficult to get to a 10. Most people in their life will never be a 10. But you're going to be a natural in some areas, you're going to be unnatural in some areas. And so if you're naturally a 1, through a whole lifetime of work, you might be able to get from a 1 to a 3 at a skill. But if you're naturally a 6 at a skill, through a whole lifetime of work, you might be able to get from a 6 to a 9. He's like, here's the thing. A 3 is going to make 15 bucks an hour, maybe 10 bucks an hour, or 8. Not a lot of money. Whereas if you get to a 9 can make $1 million a year. So if you're going to focus, does it make more sense to focus your energy on where you're weak or where you're strong? There's another book that he referred to and I read later on that's called Now Discover Your Strengths. And that book, I'd really encourage it. There's actually a test in there. It's called the Strengths Finder. And this is based on studying tens of thousands of people in clinical applications and actually looking at their neurology and looking at their brains. And in this book, it talks about how when you're a kid, what happens is at first your whole brain is just lit up all over the place as you're exploring abilities. But then what happens is as you start to learn, as you start to speak, as you start to walk and talk, your brain starts to shut down areas that it's not using and specialize. And you form these super highways of neuronal connections through your brain in areas where your brain, because of your environment, because of your choices, because of your biology, begins to specialize, and areas where you're not specialized begin to shut down. And so what happens is when you try to be as good as somebody whose brain is all lit up and specialized in another area, and you're lit up and specialized in this area, you can never get that good like they can get. And so it makes more sense to focus on your strengths, and if you discover your strengths, then you can really get powerful in certain areas, and you're not going to be powerful in other areas. I mean, for example, I have a charisma ability that's not normal at all. Now, I know it's not normal. I tell people it's not normal. My charismatic ability makes very little sense. And it makes sense to me, it makes sense to a few people in the world that I've met, and it makes no sense to anybody else. And if they try to replicate it, it's really difficult for people to replicate. However, I can help them. That's part of my ability, that's part of my strength. I can help that person specialize in something that they are good at. And you'll get people that are, for example, an engineer like Lawrence Tam, who makes a couple $1 million with us. You'll get somebody like Tracy Walker, who makes a couple $1 million with us, right? You'll get somebody, you know, from a totally different background who can make a lot of money because they're specialized in an area that, you know, I'm not specialized. And because we work together, all those parts working together really form a more powerful organization. Does that make sense? So here are I'm going to give you 6 today keys to discover your strengths. And I want you to focus on where you're strong. Don't focus on where you're weak. Look, don't focus on where you're weak. Focus on your strong. I remember when I was training with the Central American MMA champions, they discovered that really quick that I'm a really good striker. And so they said, we're going to get you decent at grappling. We want you to be able to do it. But what we really want you to focus on is your striking ability, because you're really fast and you've got really good form and you can really hit hard, way harder than a normal person your size. And so it makes more sense for you to focus where you're strong, because you've got a game there that we can really quickly get to the top. Whereas if you try to focus on this ground game, you need too much work there. It's going to take you a lot longer, but you still need to learn it, right? So it's okay to practice where you're weak, but you want to focus on where you're strong. Does that make sense? So here are 6 keys. Number 1, you want to ask a mentor. If you've got a mentor in your life that has what you want, ask them. Say, hey, you've known me for a while, you know my weaknesses, you know my strengths, where do you think I'm strong? Ask your parents, say, hey, what do you think I'm really good at? If you've got a spouse, somebody who really loves you, say, what do you think I'm really the best at in the world? I'm really trying to figure out how to specialize in my skills, right? Think about it. Ask the people around you, ask mentors what you're good at, and listen to what they say. They're going to tell you, hey, you know, you're really good at this and you're not so good at this. And it's okay to not be good at something. You don't have to have an ego about it. We're all bad at stuff, right? Number 2 is to look at where you've prospered in your life, right? Like, people look at their life, and a lot of people are like, man, I've never succeeded before, right? Because they've never made $10,000 a month, but they're a black belt in karate, right? I mean, I hung on to that for years because, like, for years it was the only success I'd had, right? I was like a second-degree black belt in karate when I was 18. And so for a long time, there's only a couple things I'd ever really been good at. I'd sold rainbow vacuums well at 18. I'd been a second-degree black belt in karate. I was a good missionary when I was a missionary, and there wasn't really that much else I was good at. So for a while, my life was just full of failure. But then as I began to focus, and as I began to specialize, and as I began to enhance my strengths, and I began to stop doing the things that I wasn't good at, my whole life started to change in a dramatic and powerful way. So ask a mentor and look at where you've prospered in your life. What have you been good at? What are the things that you've been the best at? Were you really good at school? Were you really good in math? Are you really good at working with people but not so good at math? Are you a really good accountant but a really poor charismatic speaker? I mean, what are you good at? It doesn't matter what it is. I want you to think about that. Now, that leads us down to the next step, which is number 3 key, is to write down the 5 things that you do the best. And in that 5, I want you to look at those and ask yourself a question and say, out of these 5 things, what is the one natural skill set that I do better than anyone around me, where I'm really good in this area, and in this area I shine? It's okay if the other areas there's better people. And I'm not talking about developed skill. I'm talking about natural skill, right? Like if you've just got a natural, if you're a natural life of the party, right? You walk in, somebody beat me, like, I can't succeed at anything, and they're the natural life of the party. I remember this guy, Gavin, that I knew. You know, he was, you know, online, and he's like super talented, and he's actually out in Colombia now with my friend Jamie, and Gavin's just super talented. One time he bought a pen for $1,000 from me. Long story, right? He's still got that pen today. The reality is, though, is that Gavin has like a flair with people that I've almost seen I've never seen it really in anybody. It's a really unique ability. He walks in places and everybody just starts paying attention to him wherever he's at. He picks up girls everywhere. All the dudes talk to him. Everybody thinks he's cool. And he's just got this natural social skill that really almost seems unnatural, but he's talented there. So if he learned to build a business that was built around his social skill, he could make millions and millions of dollars, right? Whereas if he tries to build a business like an accountant, if he tries to build a business with too much structure, he's going to explode his brain because he's going to hate it so bad. So where are you strong, right? If you look at some people that I've worked with over the past, like you take somebody that I've worked with guys, Toby and Layla, right? Really charismatic, really creative people, right? Really great at blogging, right? They're way better at blogging. They're way better at content. They're way better at charismatic energy than they are at doing things like structured advertising, right? Whereas if you take a person who's really good at completely structured advertising and you try to get them to do this charismatic content stuff, right? Their skill starts to break down. But the point is that everybody's got strong points. Everybody's got places where they're the best. So write down the 5 things that you actually do the best. Now here's the 4th principle, and that's to practice where you're strong. So wherever you're the strongest, that's where you want to practice. Don't go practice where you're weakest. Look, don't practice where you're weakest. You want to learn the skills, right? And then specialize, right? You want to learn these skills, learn them, and as you're going through the range of skills you're learning, then what you do is you specialize on what you can do the best. And what you do the best is where you should specialize and where you should be the best, because that makes the most sense for you, right? It doesn't mean you shouldn't learn the things when you're weak. It means you need to learn enough of it to know it, and then you need to learn the next skill, and then you're going to find in this range of skill where you're the best. And when you know where you're the best, that's where you focus, because that's where you're going to make the most money. That's where your mentor will tell you to do. That's where you're going to shine in the world. Which brings us to the next point, number 5, which is to focus your energy. Look, if you take 90% of your energy and you focus on where you're strong, you're going to shine. Period. Maybe not this year, maybe not next year, maybe not this month or next month. Maybe this month you'll shine. You want to focus your energy where you're strong and natural, and where that can be refined into a powerful income creating skill. You want to focus your energy on where you're strong. Focus on where you're strong, right? Focus. If you focus, you're going to make a lot of money, because you can move from a 6 to a 9 over your life. It's really hard to move from a 1 to a 3. Does that make sense? It's the John Maxwell principle. Now this is principle number 6. Right now I want you to claim your copy of the Daily Shortcut, because what we're going to do is give you a range of abilities, but we're going to help you focus on where you're strong. We're going to help you develop a good applicable knowledge in a lot of areas while we are helping you hone in on your strengths, so that you can fit in to the organization in a way that's appropriate for you. Whether you're building your own business, whether you want to build a business with us, doesn't matter. We want you to focus your energy where you're strong. So I want you to right now to scroll down and claim your copy of the Daily Shortcut, because I'm going to give you an audio today's show for free. I'm going to give you a PDF, and it's going to be a workbook that's going to focus on your strengths, right? And then I want you to go down, I want you to claim those bonuses. We're also going to see how we can help you build a better, more powerful business on the next page. Right now, I want you to focus your energy on your strengths and claim your copy of The Daily Shortcut. Leave me a detailed thought in the comments about what you learned at today's show. I'm looking forward to working with you, looking forward to helping you prosper. And my friend, I will see you on the beaches of the world. Let's lock arms, let's fight the forces of evil. But more importantly, I want you to focus on where you're strong so that you can be the superhero of your own life. This is Dave Wood, and I'll see you in the next episode.